conventional wisdom says that consumers will hate ads in their AI assistants, that inserting commercial content into ChatGPT or Gemini will erode the trust that makes these tools so valuable. I'm not so sure on that. I recently joined Mike Shields on the Next in Media podcast to talk about ads coming to LLMs, and I made an argument that surprised even me. Not only could these ads work, they might actually be better than what we've ever seen before. But here's the thing, if I'm right about that, it kind of creates a problem for retail media that almost nobody is talking about. Let's listen in to part of my conversation with Mike.
Do you think it's worth questioning whether people will respond to ads the same way and whether you're going to have the same just breadth of advertising in experiences that are about sort of like they're different than I want 20 blue links. I want to have an answer. Like, are we sure this is going to be as powerful as we think?
Great question. And yes, the proof is going to be in the pudding. It all depends what these ads actually look like, right? As to whether people will engage with it, if they will still feel like their AI assistant is a trusted collaborator rather than someone just, a sleazy salesperson trying to pitch things to them. So I think it will really depend on what that ad unit looks like, how it is served. I personally am very optimistic that we don't necessarily need, they won't necessarily look like the sponsored products of the past for a few different reasons. One, with AI, not so much now, but in the future, I believe we'll have much more multimodal, engaging surfaces to interact with AI, voice, video, things like that, try-ons.
Right. We shouldn't be limited, or we shouldn't limit our thinking to what we see right now.
Exactly. So I think, for certain types of shopping behavior, having that sort of multimodal ad would be really helpful. Like, for example, I would love to be told about a new product drop from my favorite clothing brands and have it, shown on my, avatar to show me what it looks like, and just have a pop-up like, hey, Kiri, one of your favorite apparel brands have just dropped a new line. So
Right.
that would actually be cool. Another thing is around context and how much these LLMs know about us. And ads are annoying when they're irrelevant, right?
Right.
A lot of people love the ads on Instagram, for example, because they are super relevant. I'm like, I didn't know that I ever wanted that thing, and now I do. And so it can feel additive when it is super relevant. And you think about all of the context that these LLMs have. We're sharing not just our, requests for recipe ideas, but we're sharing our hopes, dreams, fears, marital counseling questions.
Right. Literally having therapy sessions. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that I'm an optimist. I think that ads in LLMs have the potential to actually be really cool. And the big question is if they sort of take that direction and run with it, or, try and sort of copy what has been done on other platforms.
That's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but because it is, there is a trust, there is a unique level of trust. I mean, again, it's really early in our journey here, but like people are really personal, and they sort of buy into these products talking to them in a way that where traditional search you could be, and it took a little while before Google became like nakedly commercial. But then I don't think people had that expectation that it wouldn't be, where they'll have to be careful how hard or how fast they go.
Miracle Ads is the only retail media solution designed for both 1P and 3P marketplace brands. Why does that matter? Marketplace sellers demand a seamless advertiser experience that still offers full funnel ad formats. And retailers need a flexible solution that allows you to scale your media business. Learn more at miracle.com. That's MIRAKL.com. So that's the optimistic case. LLMs have context that no other advertising platform has ever had. They know what we're worried about, what we're planning, what we're searching for across every category of our lives. But later on in the conversation with Mike, I raised something that's been on my mind. If LLMs accumulate all of this rich intent data and they figure out how to monetize it, what does that mean for retailers who've been building their offsite media businesses on exactly that same data?
Amazon was early to the game. They've trained brands on what to expect, and other retailers just, they can't compete with what Amazon has done specifically. So there's the two other big areas of retail media, which are not nearly as big as on-site sponsored product ads, are off-site retail media, which is activating a retailer audience on CTV or social or other platforms. And finally, in-store retail media, which is still very, very small, but people are very excited about it. That's very resilient to AI-enabled shopping, by the way. So
Right,
I think
right.
there's a good reason to be excited about that. But I want to run this by you, Mike, because I want to get your opinion on this.
Sure.
When I think about off-site retail media for that, it's not as high profit margin as on-site, but in the event that people are doing like actual transactions through LLMs, I see that as being as creating a big risk for retailers' offsite media networks, because now another party has that transaction data and they have that intent data and the pre-purchase
Hmm.
activity data. What do you think?
That's interesting because I was going to say, in general, like, when people talk about off-platform, you're right. They want to let's use that data all over the place. But my mind always goes towards the open web because
Yeah,
that's where you think there's the infrastructure is already there, and it's the open web is hurting theoretically, right? Like that. So, but in my experience, at least I don't see retail media ads all over the place. Like I would expect. Maybe now that
you
could just
wouldn't
be
know
me.
it.
I don't.
You
Would
wouldn't
I
know
know
it.
it? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not sure if I would feel it or not.
Mm,
Um, but if I think it's still an intimacy in CTV, even with influencers and stuff. But
mm.
I do think that if shopping takes off through chat experiences, that can hit retail media in general. But I hadn't
Mm.
thought about. But I think you're probably right. You are going to the brands will go to what works and what is closer to a transaction than something that feels a little
Yeah.
bit disconnected. So that would make it vulnerable. That does make sense to me.
I think it might bring the premium CPM down a little bit. I think because there'll be a bit of competition for that audience data. So now ChatGPT knows I'm in Atlanta. I'm a mom. I live in the suburbs. I kind of shop this stuff. I've been
Right.
searching for new recipes. I've been searching for high protein lunchbox snacks or whatever. Walmart also has that search intent data, and so they could uh, a protein brand could retarget me on Disney with a snack commercial or something like that.
Right.
But also ChatGPT knows that. And so I think this all comes down to if the LLMs choose to pursue an offsite media business, to me, it makes sense because then you're not sort of quote unquote cluttering the chat experience with ads,
Right.
right?
You'll have a lot more surface area where people were theoretically more receptive. That's actually really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
We haven't seen any LLMs talk about it, certainly not release it. ChatGPT has even said something very specific, like "we will never sell consumer data to
Yeah.
advertisers." I'm like,
There's a
oh,
lot of
okay, that
nevers in
seems
this
to
business that don't.
close the
Yeah.
yes, well, true. To me, it just seems like if I was in charge of monetization at one of these LLMs, it's a path I would seriously consider. But maybe there's a good reason why they haven't.
Retailers have spent years building the pipes to activate their shopper data across CTV, social, and the open web. That offsite business was supposed to be the next growth engine as on-site inventory gets saturated. But if ChatGPT knows that I'm a mum in suburban Atlanta searching for high protein lunchbox snacks, and they decide to build an offsite advertising business instead of cluttering the chat, suddenly retailers aren't the only game in town with that data. I'm not saying this will for sure happen. I don't have any inside track on this. But if I were running monetization at an LLM, it's a path I would seriously consider. I really enjoyed this conversation with Mike Shields from Next in Media. I personally love his Substack and podcast. I think you should definitely check it out if you like this one. We'll link up to it in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you tomorrow.